Hey friends, it's Adam and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I want to do something different. I realized that I spent so much time in these videos trying to edit them properly, make sure they look polished like all the other YouTube videos out there, really just because I thought my videos looked like crap and I needed to edit them in a way that would make them better. And what I realized is that I'm doing you guys a disservice because I'm not able to consistently put out content in the manner in which I'd like to really help you get the value you need to out of the things that I'm teaching. I mean, my goal is really to help you guys remove the mental and emotional blocks that are keeping you stuck, but also give you the tactical tools you need in order to shorten the gap between where you are and where you want to go. And if I'm not able to put out content on a consistent basis, I'm doing you a disservice and I'm not stepping fully into my mission. I realize that I'm just not that YouTuber. If you're looking for really polished YouTube channels that have cool graphics and tell a really beautiful artistic story, you have people like Ali Abdaal, Nathaniel Drew, Thomas Frank, Matt DeVelio, or whatever his name might be. Those are great channels for you guys, but this isn't it. I'm gonna give you guys raw, unfiltered content that's gonna get to the point of what you can actually implement to change your life. And I realize that I'm just gonna really step into that and lean into that as we move forward on this channel. So you can expect that from me, and you can also expect more content on a consistent basis to help you change your life. Now, with that being said, with that long monologue, dialogue in the beginning, today's focus of the video, why your habits aren't working. Have you ever been in a situation where you know you want to implement a behavior or action that's going to change your life? Maybe you're going to implement a new workout routine or a new diet or some new experience that you want to start developing, but you end up quitting halfway through, getting really frustrated and never picking that back up. Well, I've heard that story countless times and I realize it's because we're doing a lot of things wrong. So in this video, I'm gonna break down the 5 brightest ideas I have on why your habit's not working, what you need to understand, and how to implement better habits that not only stick, but last a lifetime. So let's go ahead and dive in. All right, so bright idea number 1 I wanna share with you guys, and I hate to break it to you, you're focused on the wrong thing. If we're trying to build habits, a lot of us are really focused on what we call results. And in James Clear's book, Atomic Habits, he breaks down really these different tiers of behavior change that we need to subscribe to if we want to understand how we can actually implement behaviors that stick. So on the exterior, a lot of people are focused on results or outcomes. And here's the issue with results or outcomes. James in his book really says 2 different things. First and foremost, a lot of us have the same goals or outcomes. If you think about the Olympics, everybody has the same goal in mind of winning a gold medal. But how many people actually win a gold medal? Only one person. So you can then say that it's not the goal or outcome that actually dictates what results you get in life. There must be something else to it. The other thing that I realize is that goals are fleeting. If you just try and pick a goal and say, I'm gonna achieve X, Y, and Z, then once you hit that goal, that feeling of satisfaction might last for a couple of minutes, a couple of days, a couple of weeks, but eventually that thing fades and you're just goal hopping thing to thing looking for fulfillment. It's not sustainable and it's not gonna give you the energetic funds you need in order to sustain change over a long period of time. So if you have results or outcomes at the outside, there's a next level deep, which James in his book tells us we need to focus on, which is systems. Systems are the things that you repeatedly do to get the outcome that you're looking for. So if you're trying to win a national championship in football, that's the goal or the result that you're after. The system is the things that you do in pursuit of that. It's hiring the best coaching staff. It's getting the right, workout routine in. It's hiring or getting the right players to come play for you. But there's actually a layer deeper than that that we all need to be focusing on, whether you're trying to win a national championship or you're just trying to start a jogging habit, and that's creating the right identity. This is the most important thing you can do if you want to focus on the right thing for long-term sustainable change. It's to have an identity-based goal. And so the whole idea of becoming an identity-based person is that you're not focused on getting something or doing something, you're focused on being something. And as a result of being something, the systems or the processes and the goals actually take care of themselves. For example, the goal is not to run more, it's to become a runner. And by embodying this runner mentality, going for jogs every single morning or getting that goal of running a 5K actually take care of themselves. And so when I say you're focused on the wrong things, what I'm trying to tell you is that you're focused on an outcome when in reality you should focus on being somebody, and then the results and the processes will take care of themselves. So that's bright idea number 1. Bright idea number 2 is tiny equals mighty. So many of us think that if we want to have massive, massive, massive impact on our lives, we need to make massive, massive, massive change. Well, let me ask you this. Have you ever tried to start a habit where you try to bite off way more than you could chew and you say, I'm gonna run 5 miles every single day? Well, how long does that last, right? You might do it once, or if you're lucky, maybe even twice, but it's not sustainable. And that's because it's really, really difficult to do. What a lot of us discount is how powerful tiny is. To give you an example, I want you guys to think about you being a pilot flying from LAX to New York City. Let's say you get up in the air, and while you're in the air, you make a really microscopic shift of 3 degrees to the right of the nose of the plane. That's literally millimeters of change. Well, do you know how that impacts your actual flight trajectory? Instead of landing at JFK, you land some 250 miles south in Washington, D.C. Yes, that is a massive change. And so this point really illustrates that really, really tiny shifts in whatever you're doing can have a massive impact on the end result. So a lot of people that I coach and talk to are like, I'm gonna go completely vegan, or I'm gonna train for a marathon. And what they don't realize is that these really tiny 3-degree shifts in their habits can actually make a massive difference. So before you reach for that next big leap, maybe you just try walking around the block every single day, or maybe you just try eating 1 vegetable at every single meal. And the goal here is that you want to try and implement a habit that's so small you can't not do it. It's actually impossible to fail, right? That's why I always tell people, if you want to get stronger, maybe just start, or in getting a workout routine, maybe just start with 1 push-up every single day, and then build to 2, 3, 4, 5, until you get to the point where you're going to the gym, you're bench pressing 225 for 10, and you end up getting jacked, whatever that might be. But start really small. Don't discount that tiny equals mighty. All right, baby, we're on a roll. Bright idea number 3 is the reason you don't have the habits that you want is because you quit. So many of us start building habits in mind because we want to get a result. We think we're going to start getting results right away. So we go to the gym a couple times, and then we start looking at our arms, or we start looking at our butts, and we're disappointed because we don't see results. The goal of building habits is not to get results right away. It's to build a solid foundation that you can build off of in order to get results. But in the beginning, you're not going to get results. Most of us think that habits and results, if it was a graph, looks something like this. It's just 1 for 1, up and up and up. It's linear. But that's not the case. It's actually a lot more, what is this called? Exponential, where you have a lot of static ungrowth, and then boom, you take off. Kind of like compounding interest, right? It doesn't look like a lot's going on, and then boom, you rocket off to the skies. And that's exactly what happens in our habits. And in James Clear's book, Atomic Habits, James talks about this, and he calls this, the valley of latent potential, or the plateau of latent potential, where we're in this space where we're not getting a ton of results and we get really disappointed, what he calls the valley of despair, and we end up quitting. Most of us quit too soon because we're not seeing results. But to give you an example of kind of what this is like, I want you guys to imagine that you're in a really, really cold room and there's an ice cube on the table. And as you're sitting in that room, you can see your breath, but slowly but surely, you start increasing the temperature of that room. Let's say it's at 26 degrees, it starts getting up to 27 degrees, 28 degrees. You look at the ice cube, nothing's happening, it's not melting. You get a little bit hotter, 29 degrees, 30 degrees, nothing happens. You get up a little bit higher, 31 degrees, no change. But finally, at 32 degrees, the ice cube starts melting. Now I wanna ask you, was it that 1 degree shift that made the ice cube start melting, or was it the 5 to 10 degrees before that that added energy to the system to have it start melting? And the answer is both, but you can't discount the efforts put in beforehand to make the ice cube melt. And the same thing is true in our lives. Instead of thinking of the effort that you're putting in to build habits without results as wasted energy, I want you to think of it as stored potential. What we're doing is we're actually storing potential, we're storing effort into this habit that's building it stronger and stronger. Eventually it's so strong that you start getting massive exponential results. So don't quit while you're in the valley of despair. Keep going in the knowledge that you're actually gonna hit a threshold where you start rocketing off. So that's bright idea number 3. Bright idea number 4 is B equals MAP. And this was a concept introduced by a Stanford professor named BJ Fogg. And if you want to understand what a behavior is constituted of, or what a habit is constituted of, you just need to remember this formula, B equals MAP. Behavior equals motivation times ability times prompt. Let me explain this to you. hopefully there's gonna be a little graph over here on the side. I'm gonna add a little image so you guys can see it. But on this graph, if you wanna understand what constitutes a behavior, it's the motivation to be able to do it, the ability to be able to do it, and then a prompt that makes you do it. We're not gonna talk about prompts a ton in this bright idea. In the next bright idea, we're gonna talk about cues. But if you wanna understand how to get yourself to do something, all you need to really understand is motivation and ability. So when you're starting out something new, let's say you have a new running habit that you wanna do, and your motivation is pretty low. So to offset this, what you need to let me back up. We're gonna talk about exactly what motivation and ability is. So your ability is just how easy it is for you to do something, right? Doing 100 push-ups at once is probably pretty hard, but doing one push-up is really easy. So when we talk about building a new habit, we wanna keep that ability in a place where it's easy for us to start that habit. When we talk about motivation, it's essentially how likely it is, how badly we want to do something, or how likely we are to do something. So if you're like me and you want to shoot these YouTube videos, or you want to coach people, or you want to read, I'm highly motivated for those things. But maybe something like, what's something I really don't like doing? Laundry. My motivation for laundry is really low. I have no interest in doing that thing. So in order to equilibrate these and figure out how we can find that sweet spot to make an action happen, if we have high motivation and high ability, we're definitely gonna do that thing. If we have low motivation, then we know we need high ability to offset that. If we have low ability to do something but high motivation, that's gonna trigger an action. But if we have really low motivation and really low ability to do something, that thing's probably not gonna happen. So when you're thinking about some of the tasks that you wanna implement, or habits that you wanna implement, behaviors you wanna implement, how can you make yourself really motivated and give yourself really high ability? Or how can you kind of move the levers on those where if you don't have a high motivation to do something, you can make it super simple? Or if you can't make it simple, then how can you make yourself really motivated to doing it? By adding an incentive or building external accountability or something like that. So if you want to think about building a new habit, think B equals map. How can you increase your motivation or make something super simple and increase your ability to do it in order to get the habit to stick? All right, you guys, bright idea number 5 is cueing good behavior. Now, in the last bright idea, we talked about B equals map, behavior equals motivation times ability times prompt. We didn't really talk about the prompt, but in any behavior, you can have high motivation, high ability, but every single habit or behavior has a prompt or a cue that cascades the necessary steps. So for example, our cell phones are a great example of this. You're going throughout your day, you wouldn't normally be checking your phone, but then you get a ding or a ring, and that cue prompts you to check your phone. The best way to set up cues in a positive way for our own good behaviors are to set up an if-then statement. So for a bad behavior like checking your phone maybe too much, the if-then statement is, if my phone rings, then I check it. And a lot of us are programmed like that. But how can we spin this in a positive light to get us to do good things? Well, one of my, some of my cues are, when I brush my teeth, then I floss, right? I have my flossers right next to my toothbrush. When I'm done flossing, I brush my teeth. When I wake up in the morning, I go for a run, right? So I know as soon as I wake up, the first thing I'm doing is going for a run. So we can set up these little if-then statements that allow us to set up cues that prompt good behavior. Another example of doing this is piggybacking things. So if you want to start a new habit, James Clear talks about piggybacking, which is essentially tying a new behavior to an old behavior you're already doing. So let's say, for example, the toothbrush and the flossing technique that I use. I already brushed my teeth twice a day. I just piggybacked flossing on top of that. So every time I brush my teeth, I knew I was gonna floss. Maybe for you, it's when I brush my teeth for bed, then I lay out my clothes for tomorrow's workout in the morning. So that step is already taken care of. Or maybe, what's another thing that you guys could implement? That's an if-then statement. Every time I check my email, then I go for a walk around the office or something like that. You can set up these little cues that prompt good behavior. So every time you're in your email, you know that you're gonna be taking a walk after that. And the most important thing that I see where people miss the ball on cues is that you need to make it really obvious. If you want to play the guitar more, put the guitar right in the middle of your living room so that every time you pass it, you play a couple chords. Or for me, I keep my kettlebell around my house. You guys know that I love my kettlebell. I keep my kettlebell around my house in the doorway, so every time I walk past it, I pick up the kettlebell and do a couple swings. So make the cues really, really obvious, piggyback the cues on something you already do, and you can use that to prompt really good behavior. So in this video, we talked about why your habits are failing and what you can actually do to make sure that you can succeed. I hope you guys really liked this video. If you did enjoy it, let me know what your favorite bread idea was down below in the comments. If you guys have ideas for more videos on habits that you want to see, or just more videos in general on topics that I can cover, let me know, and I hope to talk to you guys soon.